or sometime early in the new year, before coming to a final decision sometime next summer. As we understand it, but don't yet have the detail, they will be consulting on 4 options. The first option is more or less the option that we currently know as option A. That is a new crossing next to the existing 3 crossings at Thurrock. I have to say, Madam Mayor, that this still does nothing to enhance the resilience of either the local or the regional road network. It would lead to more queues of traffic, as it creates pinch points on both sides of the river, as 6 or possibly 8 lines of traffic have to merge into 4. This will inevitably create additional pollution issues, both air and noise pollution, in an area where this is already a significant issue. And it guarantees that the congestion problems that all too often blight the west of the borough will continue. Options 2, 3 and 4 are more or less variants of the current option C, all cross the river between Tilbury and Coalhouse Forts to the east of Tilbury. Any of these options would put added pressure on the existing road network, on the A13, on junctions 30, 31 of the M25, whether they link with the Dock Approach Road and the A13 itself, the M25 or the A127. All options we expect to form part of the consultation to be launched by government. We also understand, Madam Deputy Mayor, both because of the width of the river at that point and to allow large ships to still get into the port of Tilbury, the span of any bridge at that location would be absolutely huge. In fact, one suggestion, the height of the bridge could well be up to twice as high as the current bridge at Thurrock, and the support pillars holding it up as high as the Shard. Let's be clear, any of these 3 options would do enormous damage to Thurrock's heritage, dominating the landscape between those 2 historic forts. Any of those 3 options would devastate our green belt, some of the best green belt in the borough, by driving a 7-mile highway through green fields and fens. Would have a huge impact on some of our villages such as Alsip, Baldwin, West and East Tilbury, and even possibly Horndon on the Hill, depending on precisely which route is chosen. So, Madam Deputy Mayor, it's clear to me that ahead of that consultation, this is the time for us to reassert Thurrock Council's unanimous opposition to another Thames crossing anywhere in Thurrock. No further crossings in Thurrock has been this council's position for many years. In fact, the council unanimously supported this position almost exactly 3 years ago, back in November 2012. The people of Thurrock have spoken against any further crossings time and again. In the spring of 2013, we put adverts in 2 local newspapers and ran an online poll simultaneously. Of the hundreds and hundreds of who responded to that, over 80% said no new crossings here. Hundreds of people, including both our members of Parliament, came to the Alsip Hall and the Culver Centre to join with us in our None of the Above campaign. That is, no new crossings, no new motorways in Thurrock. And again, Madam Deputy Mayor, I have to be clear, we're not saying that there should be no new river crossings anywhere on the Thames. In fact, Transport for London is proposing 3 new crossings to the east of Tower Bridge, and I support these projects, as does the Mayor of London, and as do the boroughs involved. Just one of those new crossings, that between Belvedere and Raymond, would, on Transport for London figures, take up to 800 vehicles an hour in peak time from the current Dartford Crossing. We also know that free-flow tolling has improved the traffic flows at the crossings, improved them considerably heading south, that is out of Thurrock, and although the improvement hasn't yet been the same going north, there is still some improvement there. These improvements in flows are despite the works, the welcome works, that are underway to improve the capacity of junction 30, 31 of the M25. Government has previously said that no decision on a further crossing should be taken before the full impact of free-flow tolling has been properly considered. I hope they stick to that, and I hope they add into the equation the extra capacity created by the improvements to junction 30-31, and then factor in the impact of those new crossings in London. If that is done, we may well find that the case for spending up to £6 billion on a further crossing in Thurrock is one that simply doesn't hold water. Madam Deputy Mayor, I move the motion this evening, and I ask that all members support the motion. not merely with a show of hands, but by standing up this evening and adding their voices to our continued opposition to these plans.
Thank you.
Madam Deputy Mayor. I will be supporting this motion. Like many residents of Thurrock, I'm sick and tired of hearing about another crossing being built in Thurrock. It seems to me that this government are just not listening to the views of Thurrock residents on this issue. The air quality in many parts of Thurrock has been reported as being deemed the worst in the country at times. When the weather is bad and we have high winds, this results in the bridge being closed, which in turn brings Thurrock to a halt and a virtual car park. For many years, the residents either side of the Dartford Crossing have campaigned to have the toll barriers removed so as to ease traffic congestion, and for the charges to be abolished as was promised many, many years ago. Since removing the toll barriers, traffic has become more free-flowing, despite being told by the so-called experts this would not be the case. We are being told that consultations are in favour of another bridge being built in Thurrock. Where does this idea come from? I just don't know. If another crossing is deemed necessary, then it should be built further up towards London, and it needs to be a tunnel and not a bridge, as I said earlier. Then what do I know? Like many residents of Thurrock, we only live and work in the area, and for many years...
One of the routes would not only hit Tilbury, but come within 500 yards of housing in Chapel St Mary, and then progress its way through Alsett and Malvern, decimating our countryside. And also we have that rather historic area, just very close to Chapel St Mary, which is called West Tilbury, where the Armada, Queen Elizabeth I, sent her troops on her way. It's a very historical monument. Now, if this crossing was to go ahead there, it would wreck that facility, which I think would be really wrong. What we need to do is to take traffic off the M25, not increase it. And all a crossing, whether it's A or C, will do is increase the traffic coming across and onto the M25. What we really want, and I hope our Conservative friends can help us on this, what we really want is an outer orbital crossing which would go down towards Pitsea. So it could go straight in to the existing A13. The A130 could be upgraded to 3 lanes, because when I was on the County Council Highways Committee, when we actually sanctioned that road, there's enough room for the 3rd lane on both sides. We made sure of that. So there is facilities there. And then once and for all, and I'm glad the Chancellor's announced new capital investment this afternoon in the House, which is very welcome. Perhaps he would go just a little bit further and 3-lane the A12 right the way down to Ipswich, and then 3-lane the A14 into Birmingham, because we want to take that traffic away from the M25 in London. Why does it all have to come down only to come onto the M25 and then go through the tunnel or the bridge off to Dover? It just doesn't make sense. And I think this is where we need joined up thinking. So it's not too late, and we really need our Conservative friends in this chamber to really back this motion this evening so that we can stand united.
We're supporting this motion, although I think the government really is playing a game with us, because when the first plan was put forward, the elephant in the detail was one of the proposals would be cost negative to the government, i.e. it wouldn't cost them anything to build, it would be private enterprise that would build it. Now we all know that the crossing is going to probably be at the lowest level of any consideration for the Conservative or perhaps any other administration that may come slightly earlier than 5 years. it will be on the lowest consideration. And the main reason is they haven't got any money. So that's why they're delaying the decision and keeping it off and off and off. But it would not surprise me to find that it will be Plan A that will come into it, because that is the plan. Everyone's ignored it. Everyone says it won't work, but that is the plan that will be cost negative to the government. So I think we should be very, very aware that I will support the fact that we're pushing it, because I don't think that people will be naive to think that the government will take any notice of the people of Thurrock. So therefore I think it's still good that we should try and have an input. Thank you.
We can go over the same ground again as John said. You know, air pollution, it's terrible. You know, Thurrock has never had any kind of good record anywhere across the borough for air pollution. It is not just the worst in Essex, it's not just the worst in the country. Often it's worse in the whole of Europe. It's appalling. What would option A give us? We're already trying to pour coal into a pint pot. That's not working. Option A, let's make that quarter gallon. It won't work. It just won't work even more. Option C. Option C is the proverbial bulldozing of the greenbelt. It puts a blot on not only our landscape, but that of Kent and many other local authorities. As Councillor Kent said, as tall as the Shard. You know, who really wants a bridge as tall as the Shard? Something you can see from pretty much everywhere in the borough, whether you like it or not. So we will reaffirm, as Conservatives, that we are in favour and will support this motion, because we do need to say no to any of the options. We've heard that 3 other bridges are being proposed by TfL, which will take the strain off of the Dartford Crossing. Let's wait again and see what the impact is. We have to be mindful, though, that we do have an ever-increasing traffic problem, not only in Thurrock, but across the country, and that will need to be addressed. I can think back to, this is quite sad, when I was at school and we were discussing M25 coming through Thurrock, and should it be 3 lanes or should it be 4 lanes? Oh, 3 lanes is enough. And now, you know, 20 odd years later, I'll say 20 years later, we're now expanding some of that out to 4 lanes because we just didn't plan further, you know, far enough ahead. But I think we need to see the impact of, the proper impact of the free flow tolls. We need to understand fully what these new bridges further up the Thames will take the traffic away, and I couldn't agree more with Councillor Rice, which is something I never ever thought I would say, ever, that we do need to have another further outer ring road, and this does need to go to option D. And obviously, you know, before today, did a little bit of a quick search to see what's happened in the past. Since its first proposal in 2008, every MP in Thurrock has said option D. We have all said no to anything in Thurrock. It just seems to be, for whatever reason, we're banging our heads against a brick wall in this, and I really do hope that they will listen, and if we're going to go to consultation, it will be meaningful, and it will actually include...
Would ever imagine that anybody in Thurrock would say that it would be okay for us to have this new crossing cut across our countryside? It is it's unthinkable to think what it would look like. It's unthinkable to think what it will do to the air quality. That, you know, and everybody will talk about the air quality. And to say, and what shocked me was 2 weeks ago in the newspaper to have our MP tell us that actually 90% of the people consulted do want it. That absolutely caused a storm on social media. I don't know who the people were that she consulted with, but I, to this day, have not found one person that has said, oh, I got one of those surveys. Not one person has actually said, actually, I said I did want that. Then our local paper carried out one. People still don't want it. So we've had the meetings at the Ulsey Hall, we've had social medias, we've had newspapers, we've had everything. And this, and Thurrock is saying, we don't want it. So for both of our MPs to now start saying we need to be thinking and accepting it We don't need to do that, because when this consultation comes out, we as Thurrock residents will be there to fight again to say, not on our doorstep, and you as our MPs need to be up there in the Houses of Westminster saying our residents don't want it and not telling us residents we have to.
I speak as the ward member for Purfleet, and I think Councillor James mentioned at times when the bridge is closed due to weather conditions and it, grinding Thurrock to a halt, but actually it happens on a more regular basis in Purfleet. It's not that just when there's a massive incident, it's extremely regularly. The amount of traffic is phenomenal, and it impacts on Purfleet especially far more regularly than people would realise. And residents have been extremely patient, and the idea of having a bridge right next door, I just can't imagine that anyone in Purfleet at all will be able to move. So of course I'll be supporting this motion, not just for my own ward but for across the borough, and let's just say no and keep on saying no.
Just the substantive detail. I thank Councillor Kent for the hugely helpful contribution he made at the start, and indeed for the leadership he's shown through the course of this campaign. But Madam Mayor, I would like to just place on record both my view and the view of the Highways and Transport Department officially against these crossing proposals. I think it's clear that our view is that they are a bad thing for Thurrock, no matter which route, whether it's in West Thurrock and Purfleet, or whether it's the huge damage they would do to the green belt in Orsett, Chadwell and Tilbury. I really do hope, Madam Mayor, that we can continue to have a cross-party consensus on this issue, and so let's really send that strong message of opposition and pass that motion tonight.
I certainly support this motion. I'm being parochial when I say, obviously, because West Tilbury is in my patch, but it will completely destroy the village of West Tilbury. It is a conservation area, and of course, as Councillor Rice has already said, it will destroy a very historical site, whatever the significance of Queen Elizabeth did or did not do. But furthermore, do we really need a further concentration of traffic, heavy traffic, joining our feeder roads? I mean, listening to early morning radio, there's very few times when there's not a major accident that's blocking our highways, and on many times we're at complete gridlock. Do we really need more traffic coming onto and meeting our highways? Certainly on the M25 or the A13 or the 127. We've got problems already. We don't need that extra traffic to come through here. And I fully support what Councillor Kent.
Yeah, I wasn't speaking because of Councillor Greenwald. She needs to go back to school and learn the reading lesson. 90% of people don't want a crossing. That means, just like the Councillor Kent said, that means in East Thurrock, that means not in east of the Thurrock, East Thurrock, so Candy Island, option D, and that means the options into West London. And the MPs in London want these crossings. So, Councillor, you need to get your facts right. Stop reading social media, get it right. Otherwise, luckily, next May, we won't have to listen to you in this chamber.
Chamber, and I own up to be the junior member in here. We, in the few meetings and before then, have made jointly, irrespective of our political persuasions, great strides in trying to do the right thing. We've had an agenda this evening that has actually tried to make great strides between us in regeneration and moving this borough forward under the most enormous pressures. And yet, bubbling under the surface at the moment is the possibility that everything in this agenda could have a cart and horses run through it because of the proposals that may be out there being considered by the government. Now, I think we have a responsibility, every single one of us here this evening, to stand up and back this motion unconditionally, irrespective of what party we are from. And in relation to the comments made by Councillor Worrell, I believe she was absolutely right on the money in her comments on this particular item, and I stand by lock, stock and barrel by everything she said. Now, in relation to our two MPs, I think they're accountable, that really they should be in here tonight standing alongside us, shoulder to shoulder, in opposing this. So I fully support, Madam Deputy Mayor, the comments made by our leader, and I believe everyone else in this chamber should do the same thing. No further comments.
I will be supporting the motion, and I agree with virtually all the comments that have been made tonight. Referring to Councillor Cockshaw earlier, whether he likes it or otherwise, there is some ambiguity with the position of both MPs, it turns out, on this issue. And, well, there is, because the press did report, whether it was wrong or otherwise, that 90% of people were in favour of the crossing. So, I did read it. So I think it will be...
you've had your turn to
I think it would be useful.
Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you. It wouldn't be a meeting properly without Councillor Cox rejecting at some point anyway. I think it would be useful on the back of this meeting tonight if the MPs would like to take the opportunity to actually clarify their position for once and for all, and to come out strongly to say actually they are backing the residents in fighting against the proposal for a bridge in Thurrock. Thank you.
Very much tonight to second this motion, because I think that most things have been said, and of course I have great pleasure to second this motion, and I would also have great pleasure if every single councillor in this chamber does stand up and be counted to oppose this river crossing, so that we can get away from one-upmanship across councillors and absolutely start to work collaboratively and cohesively for every member of our Thurrock residents, rather than trying to be self-important and pompous. Thank you.
Madam Deputy Mayor, I am grateful for the support that this motion has received from across the chamber. I totally agree with the points that were made about the so-called option D. We are aware that option D was dropped by the government on the grounds of cost and no other grounds. I find that really very, very disappointing. It's the only option really that's on the table that would avoid traffic going on to the M25, totally bypassing the M25, which I would have thought was a thoroughly good thing to achieve. I have to say, Councillor Worrell, quoting a story in the Thurrock Gazette, I think Councillor Snell's response to that was useful. I, a very trusting soul, and I believe that not for the first time, the Thurrock Gazette have misrepresented a local politician. And I hope that we have the opportunity now to put that one to bed and to accept that all of us, regardless of party, are moving in the one direction and are still absolutely 100% opposed to any further river crossings in Thurrock. It's up to us in this chamber now to continue leading that fight, and I look forward to members, regardless of party,